Hey guys, thanks all of you for talking. I'm really interested in the entrepreneurship side of all the things that you guys are doing. And I'd love to hear what is the kind of secret hardship that you're dealing with right now. Any one of you can answer this, but what is it that troubles you about taking your business from where it is to where you want it to go?
Every day is a learning step for me. Before I opened Temper, I was a chef. I knew food. I had never worked in the retail side of things. And now that the business is running, the retail is a new world to me. So understanding the management side of things, how to deal with people, people's problems, allowing your ego to be put to the side and come to reality with every individual you deal with, and kind of understanding their each personality. I think for me that's the hard step moving forward as I grow the business, because it's so new to me and I've never dealt with this before. And that's one of the, like how I mentioned, there's no such thing as failure. Failure is great because you learn from it. If I could go back into my career, I think I would have taken a step out and worked on the retail side of the hospitality, just to understand it, how to deal with people, because our mentality in the kitchen, the way we talk to each other, is completely different to how you deal with people in the front of the house on my business. So moving forward, that's the biggest hurdle to me, is the management. Once you have staff, how do you deal with that staff? How do you respect them properly? How do you keep them motivated? That's the main thing. How do you keep them coming into work saying, you can have a bad day and come to work, but still perform 110%. How do you get someone to do that? And I think with a lot of businesses, that's what they struggle with. And if you can nail that equation, whatever you do with passion, you will be great at it.
Yeah, that's really well said. And just to echo off that, all super valid points. You basically stole my answer, but I'll supplement yours. Yeah, I find that just off the intrinsic motivation part, I mean, especially within like a tech startup where like you're not really like selling hard goods and getting money right away. You basically have to build a huge user base and then convince restaurants that like you have the right customers. So the basic thing there is that a lot of people just don't get paid. If they do, it's very, very little. So you have to motivate people to come and work essentially for free, and basically to live the dream. So there's a lot of I guess tricks that I've learned around how to motivate people. In fact, there's actually a really cool TED Talk that I was mentioning to Steve before we started by Simon Sinek. Do you guys know Simon Sinek? Start with Why. Anyone heard of that TED Talk? Yeah. So he says that people don't buy what you buy. They don't buy what you sell. They buy why you do it. So he talks about as a business, how do you communicate your inner purpose? At the end of the day, we talked about brand differentiation. It really is like, why you? What's your purpose, right? And our thing, again, is around connecting people in a meaningful way. And everyone's got their own purpose, and you've got to communicate that. So, yeah, around the differentiation is a huge thing. And also competitors is a huge problem, right? There's so many other goods like you, bigger brands, more marketing spends. I mean, how do you cut through the noise? And I find like with us, besides balancing people and your product, of course, how do you prioritize? Because there's so many things to do, and if you don't use your time effectively, time runs out, and so does money. So there are a lot of problems in startup life, but the passion is the biggest thing.
Just to go off to your point of prioritizing, I think being somebody who's passionate, and like the group here is, it's I think the biggest struggle for me has been saying no. Because as much as once you start doing something and people see that you're doing something you're passionate about, people I guess approach you with new opportunities, and then you see different opportunities, and it's saying no, and that's hard to do when you get excited about things, and it's that's kind of been the hardest for me is being able to do that, and yeah.
I'll speak as globally. The challenge, I think the secret, what would the challenge be for the brewers that I hear the most is go to where you want to be. Start the place you want to be. Start there and then build towards it. So in the brewing industry, the biggest challenge is they run out of space like that. Bomber Brewing has a 3-year business plan that's all put together, they're out of space in like 2 months. They're done. They can't get any bigger. So the advice is, from kind of Anthony from Parallel 49 is make sure you got the space. Know where you're going to be in your plan, and though it may cost some money, get to the right space so you don't start up, be super successful, and then go, now what? And,
Yeah, my biggest thing is also saying no. I kind of started and I got all this press on Edible Vancouver, and I was reviewed on all these blogs, and so I was doing 3 markets and then special events, and so it was really hard for me to keep up, just time-wise. I also have another full-time business that I run, so it's really difficult. Becca's helped me a lot, but definitely saying no and then figuring out a way to find people to help effectively, and I think that's something that there's room for in Vancouver. Is there's a lot of doers and a lot of people creating things and who don't necessarily have a background in business or being employers or finding employees. So there's that issue for a lot of makers and doers and bakers and whatever.
I think the big key is just focus. Like, you have to be so razor sharp focused and just so distraction. If you're focused, you're done. So it's not awesome.
I think also too, there's a lot of producers like you're saying, but there aren't enough commissaries in Vancouver for exactly. So there's a business for people to open a commissary because there's a huge shortage around town right now. People can't find places to make all their stuff. So any other questions here? Somebody.
I have a question. You guys all have, just your experiences within your business. You guys all have your individual successes. With that experience, and looking back, is there anything that you could do differently?
I would have got out of the corporate world way earlier than I did and chased what I trained all my life to do, unbeknownst to me. So I was in the corporate world for 25 years, and then, you turn a certain age and certain things happen, and I left. And I would have started way earlier. I'm very happy to see the age. I'm the old guy here. Go forth and prosper.
I would also say the same thing. It's like it's really scary to take an idea to a reality, and I think just the faster you do that, with even starting with small ideas, and like even just with this project, my own project has inspired me to be able to do other bigger things, because I've seen like the success you can have just by doing one small thing, and then that builds, and so just start immediately.
Yeah, and start a plan, they say fail fast. Like, you have to fail fast to learn. That's the biggest thing. So I guess with me, it was fail faster and then keep innovating. I mean, we did the events for 18 months, and I mean, on that note as well, I mean, there's a part of you where you say just go and do it, and that's what I did, but also, I mean, mapping out the financials of like how many events you can possibly do. The financials aren't that favorable, so I think part of it is actually sitting back and actually planning it out well, and also talking to people who've done this before, because I find a lot of times you want to reinvent the wheel, and there's a lot of people who've already done this, and they're on, it's just a phone call. There's actually a really cool website called Clarity FM. You can call like big time entrepreneurs for like, I don't know, $2 a minute, but they can give you like super good advice. So there's like, of course, there's a market for that, which is crazy. There's also just through the network, right? There's a lot of people who, when they're in your shoes, they ask a lot of questions, and people are very happy to give you their advice if you ask for it. So I think that's a really key thing.
Great question. For me, a couple things. I think in my career, I would have worked for a couple other guys that I wanted to, that I didn't have the opportunity to, just for whatever reasons. In your training as a chef, my advice to chefs is, we're in that industry that can take you around the world. If you have that opportunity, do it. You will see so much. Don't ever say, I'll get to it, or you never want what ifs. You never want to wake up one day and say, I wonder if I had gone to Seattle and taken that job. Go. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you never have a what if. You did it. And then second is, I think early in my stage, I'm the type of person that I go, 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 and I can do it on my own, and I never ask for help, you know? And I think delegating, because as I noticed in my business in the beginning, I thought I could do it all. But with the help of my great team, and being able to let go, because I've seen so many chefs, and I'm only relating to chefs because that's my industry, burn out fast because they think they can do it all. And I think great businessmen are great leaders because they lead their team into doing certain things that they're good at. I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at. I'm not going to touch the things I'm not good at because I'll probably mess them up. I'm going to have the people in the right positions to do the things that they're good at. That's my advice, you know, moving forward with the business. Delegate.
I'm having a tough time with this one because I just got up there and just said, just do. And my whole story is about just doing. And if you take the time to think, well, what would have I done differently? Well, I wouldn't have been where I am now, and I'm happy with where I am now. I think it's, I don't know, I could have done things differently, but maybe that would have stopped me from starting something. And so, yeah, probably wouldn't have done it differently. Ask me again in 6 months or a year. Ask me in a few years, I'll probably have a different story for that, but I haven't hit that bump yet, so we'll hit it.
Anybody else?
I'm just curious if any of you had like any key people that were sort of instrumental to maybe like the initial inspiration you had when you were beginning your businesses, and if you ever had to sort of get over that ego of, I'm not sure which one said it, but that is always someone better than you, and sometimes that someone better than you is the one you have to reach out to and ask for learning advice.
One thing I've learned about having a business is being able to take constructive criticism. And it's hard when you think you're the best at what you do. And that's not saying I have a big head or an ego, you know, it's the confidence. I think great business people are like that, you know, they're driven to get to a certain area. But I think for me, it was my mom, because she was my biggest critic. So I could sit and cook you a dish and you don't know me, and you could sit there and say, oh, it was good, you know, yeah, I loved it. I would sit there with my mom, and if she didn't like it, she'd say, that was shit. You can do better. Not in those words, but that was it, like a good crust, because she wanted me to be better at what I could do, right? So, you know, that, you know, yeah, that's kind of where I am today because of that, yeah.
I was sitting around before I started any of these businesses, and you know, when from an outsider's perspective, you see a business and it looks so, a lot of times looks perfect, looks polished. You see the nice photos, you see the great website, you see the press they get, you see the product in the store, you see all the stuff that's at the front, and you don't see all the stuff, all the imperfections behind the scenes. And so a lot of times that's a hurdle of getting into it, because you're thinking, well, I can never be that perfect. But then once you get into it, you realize that everybody's human inside of it. So it's not this big scary, you know, it's not the cloud and smoke. It's just it's real. And so once I got to learn about some of the businesses that I looked up to, and realized that these guys are making a lot of mistakes. But that's part of the process. That made it a lot easier to just get into it, because then it just became normal. Failure was a normal part of the process.
Yeah, as far as, I guess, inspiration, there's a lot. I think especially within tech, right? You see the Zuckerbergs, the Steve Jobs, you see the Richard Bransons, you're like, they got a good life. And then you read some of their books and you really see that it didn't come out of nowhere. They really had to push hard, which is, yeah, it's inspiring. And one thing that I found motivates me, I guess, even more is when you see people locally that are doing some really amazing stuff. So there's this a fellow colleague of mine, I don't know if you guys have heard of Brian Wong. I've done some article on him on Vancity Buzz. Anyways, he's basically 23 and he was on Forbes top 30 under 30. He's just like this little Asian guy who's just killing it, doing really well. So I find that people that are, doing better than you or already more successful, it's a great thing. It's a nice motivator, and also you can reach out and be like, hey, listen, like, how are things going? How did you do that? And he gave me good advice on trying to find people in your network that are 6 months ahead of you, who probably, again, were in this exact same problems you were in, and again, it's just reaching out. I think that's it's a really crucial part. Yeah, that's sort of my answer to that.
For me, I think that just seeing people in the local food industry, especially like going to farmers markets and just talking to people who are passionate about what they're doing, is a huge inspiration. And I think it's important for me to not rely on outside feedback from other people all the time, and just sometimes just start it just from within yourself, and then ask for support kind of after you've kind of initially done that from your friends and from other people in the community, after you've already kind of made that initial push, and not always rely on someone helping you or holding your hand.
It sounds like that you guys have there's a community support with other people. You've asked people questions and that kind of stuff. I'm kind of curious, has it always been a very positive feedback? Because I think that you're, in some ways you sort of think that maybe it's competition and people don't want to share. And the second part of that is, how are you paying it forward? Have you had people come to you and ask for advice, and how are you paying that forward and helping other people?
Well, great question. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like when you have a really cool idea and you don't want to tell anyone because they might steal your idea. It's a little bit, once you experience it, you realize that the idea is like maybe 0.1% of success. The rest is execution and a team. So I find that, at least in tech, people are pretty open about things to some degree, right? Like, there's a huge community, again, literally across the street, right next to Catch 122, Launch Academy. There's a huge tech community, and there's a lot of mentors, and everyone pays it forward because everyone has been in those shoes. And there's, I think, a lot of great institutions that really help pair up entrepreneurs, investors, students and entrepreneurs is a big thing. So, I mean, on my end, I get a lot of UBC students who, want to have coffee with me or have a beer. And, I mean, I was in their shoes a short 2 years ago. So, I think on our end, again, since I think it's a fantastic thing to ask for advice and reach into a community. As far as paying it forward, it's automatic, right? Everyone does it because it's the basic concept of reciprocity. So yeah, I mean, also you've got to manage your time because you've got a lot of stuff going on. So you've got to be kind of, I guess, efficient with it. But there's always a time to sit down for 15 minutes with someone and be like, listen, what I learned in 2 years, you will now avoid in 15 minutes. And that is the ultimate satisfaction for me, to be like, I'm going to save you a lot of time, and I wish I had this conversation 2 years ago. So.
I think that, every industry is different, but in my industry, and it's funny, we were just talking about this earlier today, a couple of us, competition is great. So you see a lot of chefs out there and they want to hide things from people, and you can't have this recipe, you can't have that recipe, but at the end of the day, it's just it's gonna be more harmful to them because everybody's gonna be moving forward. So the more knowledge that you can share is just greater for you. The more pastry shops that open up, the more people become knowledgeable of what we do, and more people will come into my store, more people will come into your store.
And you're not that far from Thomas Haas.
And I'm not that far from Thomas Haas, right? No. And but yeah, and all the down points of things in the past, like we make it sound so good and easy up here. There are downsides and bad points here. But I mean, for myself, I don't dawn on those things because it just holds you back, right? So it's like, you wake up, you think of the glass half full, not half empty. And moving forward in a business and to innovate and to be great, that's how you have to, I feel that's how you have to look at it, right? Every day is a new day. So, yesterday I walked to work this way. Well, today I'm gonna walk to work this way and get there faster and be better at what I do when I get into the kitchen, and always pushing myself the more I can teach that to more people to make them great, and then will benefit me and my business as well. So. Yeah.
Brody. I think what you probably don't get from the beer industry is this thought historically that there is going to be, it is drop dead, big business, smash mouth stuff. And I only need to point to a couple of things that I really was hoping to refer to it. The first is collaborative beers. So in the craft beer industry, brewers get together and they share ideas, they share their facilities, top brewers who compete against each other, and they create a product, and that product is for the benefit of the beer drinker. Check the ego at the door, here you go, coming to our facility, see the magic happen here. I can't imagine a Molson and Labatt brewmaster getting together to create a beer. That happens all the time in the beer industry, for example. And this mentoring, one of the key things of the guild is to make sure that there's a resource for people who want to come into the industry. So you don't have to go through the whole process of city and planning and all the other things you have to do, and where do you get the equipment and how did that work. And there's lots of, it is a phone call away. What I've learned in my business, and particularly in this industry, and particularly in my kind of craft world, which is for the most part 2.5 years or so old, of really focusing not in the corporate world, is people who are successful, and I don't mean this in a bad way, love to tell you how they're successful, and they'll tell you the path, how they got there, and they don't want you to make the mistakes they did. They really do. Whether you're a competitor or not, for the most part, if you reach out to them, they like to impart their knowledge, because for sure, no one's self-made. No one never got any advice from someone else, and we're inherently want to give back good advice to people. Let's hope.
I guess kind of to add to that as well, I was talking to my mom the other day when I was like learning about my family history related to food and everything, and I realized that my great-grandparents were some of the first settlers in Saskatchewan and broke the land and were like the original farmers there. And she said that like part of the whole system and why it worked is because everyone helped each other, and if people didn't help each other, people just wouldn't have survived there. So I think that that is something historically related to food, and I think it just kind of comes from, I mean, for me personally, being around farmers markets and around farmers, like some of the most salt of the earth giving people, and I think that definitely translates through production and through products and through food.
Anybody else? Let's talk about it.
Okay, I can talk loud. I'm used to teaching, so I talk loud when I teach. So you're all successful either making that milk or the grapes tumis or pastry or whatever it is, but just doing that, you still have to connect with the other people that you've talked about. So I'd like to know how you allocate your time developing product versus, I think, going face-to-face and meeting people like this, and then how much time on the social media, and where in social media do you get the most for bang for the buck?
I know the top guys here on Instagram, so
I just learned about Instagram, like 8 months ago? I never had it. Social media is so powerful. It's amazing. We have close to 3,000 followers, and what I've realized through the social media, and we take pictures every day and stuff, and we post it, and people make comments, and we comment back to those people, and then they come into our shop, and we talk to them, and they pass the word to someone else. It's amazing how powerful it is. For how to manage my time in the kitchen, cooking and talking to other people, it's tough. I went into, when I started when Temper opened, the passion was there to cook. As soon as the doors opened, I probably 20% of it's cooking, and 80% of it's talking to people, educating people up front, and I love it. And people love that. I think as a small business like myself and like these guys, is customers that come in love that relationship, love to see that owner there, and they love picking their brain, and you know, I enjoy it. I know that, you know, I don't get to do my passion like I used to, is 100% cook, but I'm passing on new knowledge and advice to someone that will tell someone else and tell someone else, and then they'll come in and our business grows that way. But yeah, if that answered it, kind of.
Any other experiences?
I think that they're all pretty related. Creating like new flavors and loading a photo on Instagram or whatever, you can kind of judge and see what's going to take and what people are not interested in and what people are interested in. And I think that interaction with customers is huge, especially when you're starting kind of a new product and kind of starting a new type of thing, is speaking with customers and explaining what you're doing. And a lot of people have no idea what nut milk keeping is, so just trying to like get the message through of what I'm doing is huge, and it's really fun actually. I love interacting with customers, and I find it really enriching. It really helps me kind of zero in on what I want to focus on.
Part of the process of getting from starting to where it is now is figuring out what parts of it you enjoy and what parts of it you need help with. Because obviously you're not doing it as well because you don't enjoy them as much. I come from a sales background, so what I really enjoy the most is bringing the product to new stores or just delivering it to clients and interacting with the people who consume the product or who buy it for somebody else, and building those relationships. And even markets, as much work as I'm sure markets are, I enjoy the interaction with the people the most. And so how I allocate my time is the things I enjoy the most. But unfortunately, when it's a one-man operation, you can't just do the things you enjoy, because if there's no product to talk about, then it's kind of a dull conversation. So it's finding that, and then finding by hiring the people and then finding the pieces to fill in all those other parts. So that's figuring out what that percentage is and how much time allocating. I think it's just figuring out what you enjoy and what you're good at, and allocating the rest. As far as social media goes, I mean, part of the whole other business I got involved in after I did that pop-up is it's a place called This Open Space, and we do pop-ups and we help other people do pop-ups, and it's every week it's a different store. So a lot of my time on that was in social media, but that's something I figured that I actually don't enjoy that much either. So hired somebody to take care of that. But you got to have that conversation, and that conversation right now is happening a lot. A lot of it's happening online. So you got to pay attention to that as well.
Yeah, you have to really sacrifice, and I found a really good place in my life where I'll get up at 5:30 and go for a run, put in my audio book, get all my nutrients in as far as education, exercise, and then straight away till 11 or 12 right at night. And of course you got to find your balance, right? I find that reflection is really important. So actually in Barcelona I started keeping a journal, still keep one. This is a digital one. It's called Day One. It's an app. It's really good. Check that out. I feel like again you got to find what keeps you inspired and functional. But the reality is, at least on my end, is that when you're just starting, you've got to hustle really, really hard. And be selective with your time. Who really are your friends? Who really your family is really important. I find it's a good self-reflection of what's important to me. I've got very little time. I've got to spend it the best way possible. So I find it's a great self-audit, if anything. Staying inspired. And as far as staying inspired, read. Talk to people. I think that's the best way to do it.
For me, I married someone who loves food, so they're in my shop every day, so I don't need to go home. I've talked to lots of chefs that have had businesses, and when you open a business, obviously you got to work hard, and you have to let the other people around you. The other people around you need to respect that in the beginning, and need to support you in what you do. And you want a successful business, you have to you put your life on hold for a couple of years, and you got to grow it, you know, because the outcome will be amazing, you know. But yeah, you have to. There's no time right now. If it's a new business, there's no time. You work and you sleep. That's it. You can eat a couple meals a day. So go back. Go.
I mean, you mentioned you married somebody who loves food. I think your relationship, my relationships have changed a little bit. It's you know you're in food more, in entrepreneurship, so you meet people that are doing things similar to you, and there's that bond there. So it's definitely there's a bit of relationship change, which makes it a bit easier to have a social life, because you're pursuing your passion while you're still be able to socialize with the people who are along the same path as you. So that's what I've observed from my perspective.
So what I want to do now is that there's a lot of very interesting people in this room that have businesses that relate to you guys, and I really want you guys to meet each other. So before we do that, I first want to thank all the speakers tonight. I think you're great. This was great, and a round of applause. It was a really good conversation. I also want to thank Jeff Peters, who's filmed tonight each presentation. They'll be online at foodtalks.ca/films in a few weeks. So the idea is once they're up there, tweet, and these guys tweet them, share them. Please share them with your friends around the world. That's how all these other people can learn from what you guys are doing. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Stephanie, for handling the door, and Lost and Found Cafe for this beautiful room tonight and the space and everything. One thing is, I have a radio show on CKNW, and it just actually went from nighttime to afternoon. It was supposed to be this afternoon, and it got bumped thanks to the teacher strike. Anyways, but it's tomorrow afternoon at 5:35 on CKNW, and one of the topics I actually am talking about tomorrow is bread, because I love bread. And Jim owns a place called Beyond Bread out in Point Grey, and he brought some bread tonight, which I'm going to give to the speakers in a few minutes. So he doesn't know that I'm actually talking about that tomorrow afternoon. So if you guys want to listen to it, 5:35, it's about 10 minutes long on CKNW.
Is it safe better?
I'm sorry? No. I think you guys should get to know each other. There's no name tags, but I think if you just walk around the room and talk to each other, you'll find some very interesting stories here. A lot of interesting food products being made in the city are in this room right now. So please take some time and do that. We want to do a group photo. You guys do a photo with these guys first, so we'll do that, and then I'll give you some bread, and then please everybody enjoy, talk. If you want to buy some stuff at the cafe here, any food, great cookies. They actually make everything from scratch right here. So aside from this coffee, we say don't roast, it's Republica coffee, everything else they do right here, so just you can buy something from them. And check out foodtalks.ca, follow that for whenever the next Food Talks will be. I actually don't know. So this time, last year I kind of planned them really far ahead. This year I'm so busy planning tasting plates that I'll have to do it when I have time to do it. So tasting plates, West Vancouver is next Tuesday. So I actually usually do them Wednesday night. I'm having to do them for 2 Tuesdays coming up for the next little while. So next Tuesday is Tasting Plates West Vancouver. It's got 7 restaurants from Park World to Dunderray Village, and Temper Pastry, of course. So thank you very much for everybody coming out, and please mingle.
Round of applause for Richard.